This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, it is May 23rd, and believe it or not, I was wrong yesterday. Said that the Rockets really didn't have any shot at winning Game 4, didn't really see a way where they'd win it, and of course, after me saying that, they go out and they win. All right. Watching that game, too, I mean, James Harden wasn't really great in the second half. Couldn't really buy a bucket, but nonetheless, Chris Paul comes out and plays extremely well in the second half and was pretty much carrying that team as the game went on. So we're going to talk about that in the first segment. We got Hunter Henry tearing his ACL, tied him for the Chargers. We're going to be talking about the Chargers in that problem right there in the second segment. Third segment, we got Celtics Cavs of the night. I'm going to talk about the series so far and talk about what the Celtics need to do to win and also the Cavs, what they need to do. And then for the fourth segment, we'll be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports as we always do. So that's how the show's going to go down. But no, like I said, I mean, it's just for these first three games in the Cavs in the Rockets Warriors series. It's just the Rockets never really looked too good except for game 2. All right, and I didn't think it was really sustainable, and I just figured that was just a bad game by Golden State. Golden State comes out game 3 and blows them out again, so I figured, you know what? Houston's tried, but it's over. And sure enough, Houston had a plan, and they executed yesterday. So yeah, yesterday for game 4, and this is big too, so now you win game 4, head back to Houston for game 5 with the momentum on your side, I guess you could say. But yeah, they're tied 2-2, but yeah, Houston ended up winning 95-92. For the Rockets, you had Trevor Ariza, who played 41 minutes, only took 4 shots, hit 2 of them. Those were both from the three-point line. He finished with 9 points, had 3 rebounds, shot 2 of 4, like I said. PJ Tucker played 44 minutes, was 0-4 from the field, finished with 4 points, though, because of his free throws. He had 16 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. Clay Capella played 24 minutes, went 2 of 5 from the field, had 8 points, 13 rebounds. Like I said, shot 2 of 5. Chris Paul, he had 27 points, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 rebounds, shot 10 of 20, 5 of 9 from the three-point line. And when I say this guy put the team on his back in that second half, like he really did. Like I said, I mean, Trevor Ariza and PJ Tucker didn't really shoot the ball well. James Harden was pretty non-existent in the second half. And I mean, Eric Gordon off the bench went 4 of 14, and Gerald Green went 1 of 4. So, yeah, it was a big game by Chris Paul there. Like I say, he had 27 points there. And then for James Harden, he had 30 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, had 3 steals, 2 blocks, shot 11 of 26, 3 of 12 from the three-point line. Eric Gordon had 14 points off the bench, shot 4 of 14, 1 of 8 from the three-point line. And then you had Gerald Green, who played 12 minutes in this one, had 3 points, 2 rebounds, shot 1 of 4 there. All of those came from the three-point line. No one else on the bench played. All right, Luke Mbamute didn't play. Ryan Anderson didn't play. None of those guys. For the Warriors, you had Draymond Green with 11 points, 8 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 14 rebounds, shot 4 of 8. Also got dunked on pretty bad by James Harden. It was one of those bang-bang type plays, but Draymond Green just didn't get there quick enough. Kevin Durant had 27 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 9 of 24, 1 of 5 from the three-point line. Kevin Looney had 4 points, 5 rebounds, shot 2 of 6. Really struggled yesterday, finished the game with 5 fouls. And I guess he was doing a decent job on Chris Paul early on in the game, but after that, like I said, just Chris Paul took over. Steph Curry had 28 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, shot 10 of 26, 6 of 13 from the three-point line. Klay Thompson, he had 10 points, 4 rebounds, shot 4 of 13, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. Left earlier in the game. It looked like I think it was an ankle injury or knee injury, but either way, when he came back, he really just didn't look the same. Looked like it might have been bothering him a bit. Obviously, if you're out there, probably shouldn't use the injury as an excuse, in which he didn't or anything like that, at least to my knowledge. But nonetheless, I mean, yeah, he didn't really look good yesterday. And then off the bench, you had Jordan Bell, who had 6 points, 5 rebounds, shot 3 of 4 in 18 minutes. Sean Livingston had 4 points, 3 rebounds, shot 2 of 5. And then you had Nick Young with 2 points there off the bench. No David West, no JaVale McGee in this one. All right, so like I said, Rockets win this game 95-92, and I was able to watch the entire game. And of course, starting out, first quarter, Golden State gets off to a hot little start. I think they're up 12-0 before Houston ends up scoring their first points. They finished the first quarter up 28-19. And this game was just a matter of each team winning a quarter. All right, so like I said, first quarter ends, Golden State up 28-19. Then Houston outscores Golden State in the second quarter 34-18. Golden State outscores Houston in the third quarter 34-17. And then in the fourth quarter, Houston outscores Golden State 25-12. So it was a matter of there was no true consistent performance from either team in this game. All right. And like I said, watching the game, it was close throughout in the first half. I was watching with one of my buddies, and I tell him, I mean, none of this really matters because Golden State's going to go on a little run once the third quarter starts. All right. So I wasn't really putting too much stock into how the Rockets are playing or even how the Warriors were playing because, like I said, it was a matter of the Warriors are going to go on their run, as they always do. Okay. They're going to hit shot after shot, going to come up with some stops. But when they don't come up with stops, that's up to Houston to go out and stay in the game, all right, getting points any way they can. And they did that. So they were able to stay in it after that. And, I mean, when Golden State did make their run, they were up double digits. And it was no more than like 11, I think it was. But nonetheless, you saw Houston going back and forth, just trying to chip away and chip away. Eventually, Golden State would score again. But nonetheless, with Houston constantly chipping away, that allowed them to stay in it. All right, so that allowed them basically to take it down to the final minutes and take the lead. And one thing, too, it seemed like the game was over, but the refs ended up calling in a foul on Golden State. So it was like 0.5 left, okay? Chris Paul's going to the line, and I have no idea what he was thinking here. All right. Gets to the free throw line. He misses the first one. Oh, well, I'm sure he tried making it, but he missed. Second free throw comes, and again, there's only 0.5 left in the game. Warriors do got a timeout. But from the time it hits the rim to the time it gets to someone's hands, or by the time someone touches it, that's going to take some time off. Okay, there's no way you could catch the ball and there still be 0.5 left after calling a timeout. So you're thinking, yeah, he's got to miss this. He makes it, which was ridiculous. I don't know why still. Okay, and I guess in hindsight, it didn't really hurt the team. But then again, now that he makes it, Warriors get the ball. They're able to call a timeout and advance it down the court. And 0.5 is a lot of time left just to catch and shoot. All right. Warriors run a play. Steph gets about as good as a look as you can in that time, and he misses. So, of course, the Rockets win 95-92. Again, if I'm Chris Paul, I'm missing that second free throw, but it doesn't matter because they still won. So now we got the series tied 2-2, and I'm not sure honestly what to think right now. I didn't think the Rockets had this in them. Just honestly, like I didn't think the Cavs had coming back down 2-0 and them in the Eastern Conference Final Series with the Celtics right now. With the Rockets, it's more so a thing of they played with effort. All right, they only played with, 7 players yesterday? James Harden, like I said, was struggling in the second half to shoot the ball, but nonetheless came up with a couple of big stops and came up with some steals that they needed. All right. I said one of the biggest things in Game 3 about them was that you could tell that they kind of gave up. All right. They looked defeated. Wasn't really putting too much effort on the court. And that was mainly James Harden for me. Chris Paul looked like he wasn't in the zone or anything like that. And it was just a completely team for Game 4. And I'm not really sure why the Rockets haven't played like this consistently. Okay. Of course, the Warriors are going to go out. They're going to get theirs. They're going to play well during stretches of the game. But if you're out there putting out a full effort, you're going to keep it close. Okay, and I'd say the 2 times where we saw the Rockets' maximum effort was in Games 2 and in Games 4. So now heading back to Game 5, I figure now you know what the game plan is. And one thing that I like the Rockets, like with what they did, Clint Capella only played 24 minutes. They were playing small ball the entire time. All right. Chris Paul, it was either Chris Paul or James Harden always on the court. None of them left. All right. And even though PJ Tucker and Trevor Ariza didn't really shoot the ball too well, you still saw them contributing in different ways. So now it's just a matter of if this same game plan can work for Game 5. And also, I mean, the Warriors were without Andre Iguodala. When I saw that he was going to be out, I didn't really think anything of it. I figured, you know what, Warriors still going to win by double digits. All right, but turns out Andre Iguodala might actually be extremely helpful to this Warriors team. Okay, because you didn't have a guy like him, who has been a lockdown defender so far in the series, going up against Chris Paul or James Harden. Okay. Usually it's been him and Kevin Looney guarding the best guy out there, but when you get Looney out there for a bunch of minutes, now when he's not really used to playing like that, he's going to struggle. And I think that's what it was. So now we're going to see if Andre Iguodala is back for Game 5, but even if he does come back, I do think that the Rockets do have a decent-sized chance in winning that game. All right. Confidence will take you so far, let me tell you. So we'll see if they're able to end up pulling it off. Like I said, we got ourselves a series now, and I guess if Houston wins Game 5, this will go 7. And if Golden State wins Game 5, this will go 6. Okay. I picked the Warriors to win in 5. Obviously, I got that prediction wrong as far as them winning it. That's still a possibility. But like I said, if the Rockets end up taking Game 5, then I say it goes 7 games. I'm not sure who I'd pick for a Game 7. Just given that the Rockets show they could play with this team. But if I don't see them getting another one in Oracle. Like, this was a big game right here for the Rockets. This was one where if they did lose Game 4, I'm sure they would have been done in Game 5. So we'll see what ends up happening. But Chris Paul looked really good yesterday, like I said. I mean, hit a lot of big shots, and James Harden just really couldn't find his shot in the second half, but nonetheless played well on defense. So we'll see what happens for Game 4. But we're going to wrap it up here, move over to the NFL. Like I said, Hunter Henry tearing his ACL at OTAs yesterday, so we'll talk about that, what that means for the Chargers, and just, like I said, give my thoughts on it. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about Game 4 between Houston and Golden State. Houston won that one, I believe it was 95-92. And with Houston, I mean, it's just yesterday was one of those games where everything went about as good as it could. Warriors only scoring 12 in the fourth quarter helped a lot, but nonetheless, for Game 5, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening there. And now moving over to the second segment, the Los Angeles Chargers, they can't catch a break. Okay? It is honestly, I don't know what word to use for it, but I guess ridiculous would be the word. The amount of bad luck that they get. Whether it be being in a close game in the fourth quarter, I mean, watching the Chargers in a close game in the fourth is honestly kind of comical. Okay, because somehow, some way, they're going to figure out something to do in order to give the game up. Whether it be their starting kicker, missing like 3 game-winning field goals in the first 3 weeks of the season. Whether it be a last-minute interception by Phillip Rivers, maybe someone fumbles, something bad like that happens. All right. Nonetheless, it seemed like maybe they were getting away from that bad luck. Almost made the playoffs last year. and also had a really good team heading into this year. All right, defense is looking good. Offense is looking good. Hunter Henry looks like he's going to be the next best thing for them at tight end. Didn't bring back Antonio Gates, so the job was his, obviously, and it has been the last few seasons. But nonetheless, it was just going to be him. And what happens? First day of OTAs, I believe it is. All right. It says he's running. They say said he was running a route he's always ran thousands of times. Boom, blows out his knee, out for the year. All right. This is what I mean by saying the Chargers can't catch a break. I was thinking Hunter Henry is probably going to be one of the best tight ends in the league this season. Okay. Him and Jack Doyle are the guys I've really been paying attention to. And now it's a matter of Chargers got a problem at tight end that they didn't have yesterday. Okay. So now you're going to have to look around and see what's still left out there. I mean, they're probably going to have to end up bringing Antonio Gates back, right? There's no way you can't. You got to bring in a guy who, and again, it is early on, like still early in the offseason. We haven't even hit training camp. But unless you probably do want to bring in a guy who knows the playbook, right? I'd assume so. So I guess maybe it is a blessing in disguise that it happened so early. Just given the fact that now you have time to look. But like I said, this is just one of those things where, I mean, looking at the division, you got the Raiders who they're making a lot of weird moves. I'm not really sure why, because yesterday they ended up trading for Christian Hackenberg. They gave up a seventh rounder for him, and I'm not sure why you do that move. I guess if you want to make him the backup, but I know at one point Gruden has said that before the draft and all that Christian Hackenberg was a first-round talent. Like, Gruden has said that before. So maybe he just thinks Derek Carr gets hurt or whatever, boom, Christian Hackenberg is the next biggest thing, which I don't think anyone believes. All right, getting rid of Michael Crabtree and bringing in Jordy Nelson, that was a head-scratcher there. Martavis Bryant, I think, could be a good receiver there, but I don't know. We have to wait and see. And it's just, I don't know, it just seems like Gruden's taking them back a bit. I don't think they did enough in the draft on defense. So I think the defense is still going to struggle this season. So, I mean, that's a weak team right there. With the Chiefs, it's just a matter of we got to see how their defense performs. All right, they're getting older on the D-line and the linebacking corps. And then you pretty much got rid of Marcus Peters, so do you have any of that cornerback still? And as far as the offense goes, I mean, you got Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, but how good of a quarterback is Patrick Mahomes going to be? And that's pretty much Kansas City's seasons right there. If Kansas City wants to succeed this season, then Patrick Mahomes needs to go out and play well. And then you get the Broncos, where with the Broncos, I mean, they do got a solid team there. Okay? I think the defense is still very good. Last year was more of an outlier type year for me. And then as far as the offense goes, you still got Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas. I believe they brought in Cortland Sutton during the draft. So now it's just a matter of, is Case Keenum going to be able to play well for a second straight season? All right. Because with Case Keenum, I mean, yeah, he was borderline great, I guess you could say, for the Vikings last season. But it's a matter of, was that his doing, or was it him playing in a system that could put him in a position to succeed? All right, with Pat Shurmur being there. Out there in Denver, you don't got Pat Shurmur. He's out in New York now. So now it's a matter of whether or not Case Keenum does have the ability. So there was question marks with three of those AFC West teams, and I felt like with the Chargers, we pretty much knew what kind of team they were and what kind of season they were going to end up having. All right. And I don't think this really changes up too much, I guess you could say, because you still do got a solid receivers out there. You still got a solid running back, and you still do have a top 10 defense, I think, personally. So as far as the win and losses aspect of it, I think they'll be fine. But there's a point where, I mean, eventually you are gonna have to go to a tight end. And I mean, now, like I said, they still got to look out and see what's out there. And bringing in Antonio Gates doesn't mean everything's going to be fine because Antonio Gates is way past his prime. Okay. And let's see, looking at what Hunter Henry has done. Last season he finished with 45 receptions, 579 yards, 4 touchdowns. His rookie year, he had 36 receptions, 478 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So obviously his touchdown numbers were down a bit. But nonetheless, his receptions and yardage numbers went up. All right. But I do think that the Chargers are going to end up being fine. I'm not really sure what kind of top tight ends are out there left in free agency. All right. Obviously, we all know that Antonio Gates is one. I'm not sure if Austin Seferian-Jenkins is still signed anywhere else. But nonetheless, the Chargers do have some time, I guess you could say, before training camp starts. So let me see if I can find any of the tight ends still out there. Let's see. They're all signed. Yeah, a lot of them are signed places. Martellus Bennett is out there, but he's retired. I mean, maybe the Chargers can try and get him out of retirement. Mercedes Lewis is still looking for a home. Julius Thomas, Kobe Fleener. Not too many big names left out there. I mean, Brant Selleck, but that's an older name. Yeah, honestly, it's just a bunch of older tight ends left. So I guess like the best tight ends remaining would have to be Gates. Like I said, maybe you could try and get Martellus Bennett out of retirement, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, so right now I'd say it's Gates, Mercedes Lewis, Julius Thomas, Kobe Fleener. If I'm the Chargers, it's got to be Gates or Fleener, I think. Julius Thomas seems like he's doesn't really got much left. Kobe Fleener's at least a little bit younger. Maybe they got to go for someone who could receive the ball. So I'd say it's got to be Fleener, Thomas, or Gates. But if I'm them, I'm just going to go with Gates since he's familiar with the system. So it is slim pickings over there as far as the free agents left at the tight end position. Maybe they could go out and make a trade. Maybe you kick the tires on Rob Gronkowski, see what the Patriots feel about him. I'm sure a first-round pick or a second-round pick would be nice going that way. But, I mean, as far as trade like someone who you could trade for, I think that's pretty much it right there. I don't think there's really a team out there looking to trade their starting tight end right now. So, yeah, with the Chargers, it's just a matter of Keenan Allen's going to have to step up. So is Tyrell Williams. And Phillip Rivers is going to have to figure out pretty much what to do there, too, as far as throwing the ball. But, man, there's just some teams that seem like they're kind of cursed in the NFL as far as luck. The Browns have seemed to be a team like that. But it's just the Chargers. Like I said, they can't catch a break, and they didn't spend any of their draft picks on a tight end there. I mean, the only positions really they spent on offense was at center, wide receiver, and running back, but those were all in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Everything before that, which came in rounds 1 through 4, was all on defense. Like I said, I mean, bringing in a guy like Derwin James, safety out of Florida State, as your first pick, just to go play out there with that secondary they already got. This was going to be a good year for the Chargers. All right. Possibly one where they could have went deep in the playoffs, and they still can. But it's just a matter of how much of a hole that tight end position is going to have. Position is going to have now that Hunter Henry's gone. And I mean, looking at their schedule, let's see. What do I have them finishing out here? So they got the Chiefs. I'll say that's 1-0. The Bills 2-0. Rams 2-1. Chargers 3-1. Raiders 4-1. Browns 5-1. Titans 5-2. At Seattle 5-3. At Oakland 5-4. Versus the Broncos 6-4. Versus the Cardinals 7-4. At the Steelers 7-5. Versus the Bengals 8-5. At Kansas City 8-6. Versus the Ravens 9-6. At the Broncos 9-7. So right now I got them going 9-7. All right. And obviously a lot of those games could go the other way. They finished 9-7 last year, so that wouldn't be an improvement at all. But I do think that Kansas City being 10-6 last year, they're probably going to take a little dip this year. Oakland was 6-10. They'll probably finish somewhere around there. And then with Denver, it's all a matter of what Case Keenum can do. So as far as the Chargers go, I mean, they still got options at tight end. Like I said, Antonio Gates is still there. Maybe Kobe Fleener or Julius Thomas. But other than that, they still got a solid team. I don't think this is going to make or break their season. Obviously, you'd like to have Hunter Henry out there. Like I said, I thought he was going to be a big breakout little tight end for the Chargers this season, like him and Jack Doyle, I said, are my guys who I think are going to play well. But nonetheless, now we got to figure out where to go from here before training camp gets here in about, 2 months? July? Yeah, so around July. So we'll see what ends up happening, but that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking Celtics-Cavs Game 5 going on tonight, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Alright, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked Houston winning Game 4 against Golden State. Won that one 95-92. Golden State did have a chance to tie it at the very end of the game, but Steph Curry ended up missing his shot. He got a wide open look, too. I'm honestly kind of surprised about how wide open he was, but nonetheless, still missed it, and the Rockets ended up taking a surprise win in Game 4. Now for Game 5, it's just a matter of protecting home court, and if they're able to do that, I mean, Rockets got a legit shot at winning this series. I still think the Warriors are going to win it, but I can't count the Rockets out too much anymore. All right, yesterday was talking a big game, talking about how I didn't really see them having a chance at winning, and they proved me wrong. And then for the second segment, we talked about Hunter Henry tearing his ACL for tight end of the Chargers, going to be out for the rest of the season. Now they're pretty much stuck with the option of bringing back Antonio Gates. Kobe Fleener, Julius Thomas is still out there. Or you can, like I said, see what's going on in New England. Maybe see if Rob Gronkowski's available for trade. I'm not sure if they end up doing that because I know Rob Gronkowski is looking for a new contract. And, I mean, with the Chargers, it's more so just something where you only need whoever you're bringing in for one more year, like just for a year. All right. Hunter Henry is going to be the starting tight end for the Chargers after this season unless somehow they bring in some... he's going to be the tight end for the Chargers next season. Like, he'll be there. He'll be the starter. So, really, they just need Antonio Gates. All right. And if they don't bring in Gates, then I guess, like you said, Fleener. But, I mean, Gates already knows the playbook. He's already been there for a long time. Why not him? So, we'll see what they end up doing, but... Of course, the Chargers never can seem to catch a break. Always bad luck with that team, and it's honestly kind of ridiculous. All right, nonetheless, we got Game 5 between Boston and Cleveland going on tonight. Actually, pretty surprised by what Vegas has the game at. They got Boston by a point, favored by a point. All right. And like I said, I'm not curious, but I'm a little shocked by it because, I mean, why wouldn't Cavs be the favorites in this game? Okay, got the veteran team, best player in the series. Celtics have really just completely gotten away from what they've done in the first two games. All right, because it seems like the Celtics game plan in the first two games was to be physical with LeBron on the defensive end, switch, close out on threes, and on offense it was to get to the paint, get your points that way, and if not, kick it out, make the extra pass. All right, and it was working. I mean, we saw in Game 1, LeBron didn't really play well at all. Of course, Celtics blew him out. Game 2, LeBron played about as well as you could, had a 40-point triple-double. Kevin Love played well. They still lose by double digits. There, I figured, you know what? This series might actually be over if LeBron's going to play like that. And they're still going to lose by 13. All right. Going into game 3, I think I did pick Boston. Actually, I might have picked Cleveland, I think. They ended up winning. I wasn't surprised by that at all. And game 4 was one where I think Boston it wasn't a must win or anything like that, but they would have been much better off winning game 4 rather than coming back 2-2. All right. Obviously, people would say, well, of course, why wouldn't they be better off winning? But it's more so a thing where you were up 2-0 on the team with the best player on the planet. Okay. They look weak. Now you got this Cavs team motivated, ready to go and playing about as well as you can. Coming back to Boston for game 5. All right. And Boston's been 9-0 so far at home in the postseason. I think they're 1-6 on the road, something like that, which is just entirely ridiculous. All right. And it's kind of weird too. It seems like Brad Stevens just really doesn't coach well on the road either. Or maybe it's just a matter of this team, honestly, is not too many of them are older than 24 years old. All right. And maybe it's just one where the younger team just really doesn't know what to do when it comes to playing on the road. And that's a possibility there. All right. Because in reality, I mean, as good as we've seen the Celtics team play, it's a bunch of first and second year players. Okay. But I mean, there isn't really an excuse when you've been playing well throughout the playoffs. And as far as who I got winning tonight, I'd say I'm leaning with Boston, but I could also, I want to pick Cleveland too. All right. Because with Cleveland, it's just a matter of just watching them play last 2 games. This is the maximum effort that they've given. It's like, how does Boston stop that? It kind of seems like Boston's been lost on the offensive end the last 2 games. They just completely lost. There were way too many instances where they took a 3 way too early on in the possession. Okay? And it seems like they're trying to play a lot of hero ball. They're not really getting to the paint as much. Al Horford doesn't really seem to be as involved in the game plan as you'd like. I think, too, Brad Stevens has put out some very odd lineups as far as trying to compete with what the Cavs have had out there. All right. I think it's more so where now maybe you throw Aaron Baines into the starting lineup for Morris or even Marcus Smart. Okay, I do think that Marcus Morris needs to come off the bench just to give him some added scoring with that second unit. Because Marcus Smart, I mean, unless he is lights out for one game, he really isn't going to shoot well for you. Okay, that's never really been his game. And if I'm the Cavs, I'm just sticking with what we've been doing. Okay? Tristan Thompson, since he came to the starting lineup, has been a beast and has really affected the Cavs in a good way. And it always seems to be the theme with the Cavs and Celtics the last few years. All right? Whenever Tristan Thompson's out there, they have no answer for him as far as getting rebounds or even, as far as rebounds. All right? I think he's just way too big and physical for them. I think that's where you do need to throw out a guy like Aaron Baines. So let's see. If they were to go with a starting lineup of Rozier, Brown, Tatum, Baines, or Horford and Baines, you throw Horford on Love, Baines on Thompson. I guess Jaylen Brown can guard LeBron. But even then, so too, is one thing that was honestly kind of weird to watch is watching them guard LeBron in games 3 and games 4, specifically Jaylen Brown. I don't know why they weren't doubling LeBron. I don't think Jaylen Brown is at the point in his career where he knows how to defend a guy like LeBron without being physical. Okay, because LeBron is going to get those foul calls all the time. You see the Jaylen Brown talking after one of the games saying that it's difficult to guard a guy like that when you can't touch him. That's just the way it is. Okay? So I do think that Boston needs to send more help, not just to Jaylen Brown, but to whoever's guarding him. Guys like Terry Rozier, it was frustrating to watch them do the same thing over and over. All right, but nonetheless, with the Cavs, I mean, you got Kyle Korver, who, like I said, has been the Cavs' second best player so far in this postseason, playing about as well as you can be. George Hill looking like a seasoned vet out there. Kevin Love, honestly, hasn't really looked too good so far in the series, and they're tied 2-2. If I'm the Cavs and we get Kevin Love going, I mean, there's no way Boston can beat them. They've just been that good. All right. But as far as tonight, I mean, what the Cavs need to do to win is pretty much just stay physical and keep hitting your shots. All right, keep sharing the ball, keep getting the open looks. And as far as Boston, stop taking so many threes early on in the shot clock, stop playing hero ball, and get into the paint. I think Boston's first 2 games in the paint, as far as points scored in the paint, are way higher than their last 2 games. They completely gotten away from it. But Boston does need to see a lineup change. All right. And I kind of figured that they needed one for game 4. Nonetheless, Brad Stevens didn't think so, and they ended up losing. All right. So now it's just a matter of which team is going to make the proper adjustments. Obviously, the Celtics got a whole lot more to fix. The Cavs pretty much know what they need to do in order to beat this team. All right. Jason Tatum also needs to get more involved, too. All right, dribbling near the three-point line and then kicking it out isn't going to cut it. He needs to drive in a whole lot more, especially when he's got guys like J.R. Smith on him. All right. But I'll give credit to the Cavs. I mean, Ty Lue and this Cavs team has found a way to pretty much get around what the Celtics have been doing this postseason. And, I mean, they've taken advantage of the Celtics' woes on the road. Now it's time for the Cavs to take advantage. And if I had to say one, I mean, something's got to give eventually. I don't think the Celtics are going to finish this postseason undefeated at home. So I think tonight I'm going with Cleveland as my pick. And if Cleveland wins tonight, and again, I'm going with my gut now. I mean, of course, I picked Celtics in 7. But as far as how I'm feeling about tonight's game, I feel like Cleveland's going to end up taking Game 5. All right. And if they take Game 5, then Boston's going to have to do something at Game 6 that they haven't really done too much, and that's win on the road. Can they do it? Yeah. Will they do it? It's not looking good. So this is a must-win for Boston. As far as Cleveland, I mean, worst comes to worst. You're going back home 3-2 against the down 3-2 against a team who's just completely folded on the road. Kind of like how the Raptors do when they play the Cavs. All right. So we'll see what ends up happening, but nonetheless, it's going to be a good game, and that's on at 5:30 Pacific time tonight. So make sure you're checking that out, and I know I will be too. So stay tuned for the next segment, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked Rockets Warriors, we've talked Chargers, and we've talked Celtics Cavs. All right, really looking forward to that Game 5 between Boston and Cleveland. It's going to tell us a lot about, it's going to tell us a lot about one team, that's the Celtics. With the Cavs, we already know what they are. Okay, it's not like they've been here before year after year. I mean, and plus with the Cavs, I'm extremely confident if they lose tonight, they win Game 6 in Cleveland. So honestly, either the series goes 6 for Cleveland or it goes 7, and Cleveland or Boston has their chance at winning Game 7. All right, so I'm not really worried about Cleveland for this one. But as far as Boston, this is going to tell us whether or not they can pick it up after 2 bad losses on the road, or if they're just outmatched. Okay, and I'm going to stick with my take of the Celtics being the better team right now. Okay. It's just, and again, I might just be a little too stubborn here, but it's just with Cleveland, they're just starting to play well. Okay? They really are. But as far as it all goes down, I mean, like I said, Game 5 is going to tell us a lot. Celtics just, they kept it close in Game 4, and it was a really weird game. It was one of those where it's like you knew Cleveland was going to win, but every time Boston would creep back, you'd kind of look and say, wait, are they? But nonetheless, they ended up pulling it off. So, yeah, like I said, Game 5 is going to tell us a lot here. But as far as everything else going on in the world of sports, I mean, everything's been pretty quiet, honestly. All right. Looks like, let's see, what do we got going on right now? Doc Rivers, he got an extension from the Clippers. Doc Rivers has been a weird coach. All right. He's a good coach, but it's just, you'd maybe expect him to do a little bit more than he's done so far. Because I remember in Boston, he ended up getting that one title in 2008. After that, they came close a couple times. Probably the closest they came after that was in 2010 when they lost to the Lakers. And then they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals a bunch of times and lost to LeBron after that. He didn't want to be a part of the rebuild, so he had them trade him to the Clippers to be their head coach. That team, I think we could all say, underachieved. Okay, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin should have did a whole lot more. But I guess he's ready to stick around for this rebuild. And the Clippers, like right now, the team they got, it's not bad. Okay, they do have pieces there. Also got two lottery picks where you can probably get some good value there. And if they wanted, they could probably package 2 of those picks and move up. Okay. Maybe you move up with a team like, actually, no, you can't move up with Cleveland because they're going to need that pick. Maybe a team like the Knicks, possibly maybe move into that top 10 spot. But again, I do see that the Knicks really do like Trae Young, so I highly doubt they move back from there. Maybe a team like the Bulls where they tend to draft well, the Bulls. All right, and I think they got, the 7th or 8th pick? You tell them, hey, we'll give you these 2 first-rounders for that 8th or 7th pick, whatever it may be. And I'm sure the Bulls realize they could get solid value, too, in the high teen or in the low teens. Okay? Because the Clippers, they've got a fringe playoff team right now, I feel. Okay, and maybe if you could figure out a way, maybe DeAndre Jordan walks and you trade up and get a guy like Mohamed Bamba out of Texas, that would work out, I think. All right? But as far as it all goes down, I don't even think we've talked about the lottery so far. I don't even think we've talked about Karl Anthony Towns possibly being up for trade. But I also did see a report today saying that if it came down to Tom Thibodeau or Karl Anthony Towns, then the Wolves would keep Towns. And I think that should go without question. Okay, Tom Thibodeau really tends to frustrate as far as the way that he coaches. You'd figure that maybe playing your starting 5, 40-plus minutes a game, isn't going to work out. But nonetheless, he does it, and he refuses to use his bench. Okay? And I think now we're at the point where if you want to be successful, you need an all-around good team. And like I said, just playing your starting 5 that amount of minutes isn't really ever going to work out. And with Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think he's hit his full potential yet. I think some look at him as like what you see is what they're going to get for the foreseeable future. I still think there's a whole other area of his game that he hasn't unlocked yet. All right. And I think it'd be a huge mistake for Minnesota to get rid of him. If anything, you maybe look at getting rid of a guy like Wiggins, which, I mean, they could end up just paying. And with Wiggins, too, I mean, I'm not really sure what to think of him as a player. Okay? I feel like if you realize he's kind of like a Marcus Smart, just way more athletic. All right? If you realize that he wasn't, how do you say, a great shooter and anything like that, and he was better off driving in, then, I mean, he'd be scoring at will. You can't really stop Andrew Wiggins when he's driving into the hole. Okay, and as far as his defense, I mean, he has all the makings of being a solid defensive player in this league. All right. But, I mean, Timberwolves do have something special there with Wiggins, Towns, and Butler. It's just a matter of, I don't think they have the right coach there. Okay. I think they need a guy who is really going to utilize the bench and all the other guys out there rather than going with your starting five for about 42 plus minutes and playing your bench. I mean, about as much as you can. Those three guys that come off. All right. So I'm really curious there. But, I mean, if I'm the Timberwolves too, I am going to listen to offers. Maybe a team like Phoenix gets interested, but I mean, with Phoenix, the only way, if I'm Minnesota, I'm trading with them is if they give me that number one pick at least. And it's going to take TJ Warren, that number one pick, and then some. All right. Maybe the Celtics are a team who could possibly trade for a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, but if I'm the Celtics, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what I think of Towns. Obviously, I think a guy like Brad Stevens could make the most out of him. But also, if you're Boston, I mean, you can head over to New Orleans and see what they think of Anthony Davis. Because the Celtics do have the assets to get one of the two. All right. For both, I'm sure it'd probably take a guy like Horford, Terry Rozier, and the Kings pick, and maybe the other first round pick they have for next year. I think it's either Memphis's or LA's. All right, so 2 first round picks, and then Rozier and Horford, I think, could get you either Towns or Davis, possibly. All right. But, I mean, Towns is... And I'm not sure how much younger Towns is compared to Anthony Davis, too. And that's something actually I'm going to check right now. Feels like Anthony Davis hasn't been in the league for a long time. But then again, I mean, these guys come into the league when they're like 19 years old. So let's see. Karl Anthony Towns, he's 22 right now. And I think Anthony Davis is currently 24. So, I mean, Anthony Davis is just going to be hitting his prime. And Karl Anthony Towns has a couple more years before that. So let's see, Anthony Davis is currently... Anthony Davis is actually 25 right now. All right, so yeah, Anthony Davis is going to be hitting his prime, just starting it. And Towns is still pretty raw as far as his potential. Like, he's already a top 5 center, but he's still got a whole lot more left to do, I feel. So maybe you do go after a guy like Towns instead, just because there's more upside there, I feel. But I mean, with Anthony Davis, you already know what you get. All right, so we'll see what ends up happening. Like I said, the Suns got the first pick. The Kings got the second pick. I'm very curious to see what happens 1 and 2. The Suns do have Luka Doncic's old coach. So I think that maybe, like, if you're the Suns and you're bringing in him, you got to think that his idea is to bring in one of his old players, right? I'd assume so. And I remember before the lottery even started, like a couple months before that, like during around tournament time, I was hoping that the Kings were going to end up with a high enough pick in order to get a guy like Ayton. Okay? Because to me, a starting 5 of De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Skal Labissière, and DeAndre Ayton sounds pretty nice to me. Okay? And I think with either guy, whether the Kings were to get Doncic or Ayton, they'd surprise some people this upcoming season. Like, they're not going to be making playoffs or anything like that, but I do think they are a team who could surprise. And probably, let me see, did Kings win 30 games this season? I think they win somewhere near 30, and I think DeAndre Ayton could be a guy who gets them probably to like 35 or somewhere around there. All right. So let's see, the Kings actually finished with 27. So 35 is a little bit of a jump. So I guess they'd finish probably near the 30 win mark next season if they were to get a guy like Ayton. But even then, so with Doncic, I think it's the same thing too. So I think they will improve with whatever guy they get. And this is one thing too that we've never really seen before, and that's the Kings being lucky. All right, having something good happen in the franchise. Usually that franchise is the one where no NBA player wants to go. Kind of just like the worst place to play in the NBA, I guess. All right. The Kings do have something brewing there. It seems like Vlade Divac is starting to make a lot of good moves in the front office, and I do like Dave Yeager too. I think he's a good coach, and I think he did well this past season to manage the minutes of the younger guys out there. The Kings got a team where, I mean, all it takes is one franchise-changing player, and you're ready to go. That could be Doncic if the Suns pass on him. It could be Ayton. And the only thing with Ayton is his defense. All right. Can he fix that? I mean, defense, a huge part of it is just effort, so we'll see if he's able to. But nonetheless, we got Game 7 tonight. All right, we got Game 7 tonight between Tampa Bay and Washington. This one's in Tampa Bay. And Game 7's usually been good to them. Game 7's for Washington have usually been bad. Washington looked real good in Game 6. I'll be watching this one along with the Celtics game. I'm going to have one on the TV, one on the computer probably, but nonetheless, I'm going to go with Washington. I'm going to say it's the Caps' year this year. I don't know about year, but I think they're finally going to make it to the final, or the Stanley Cup final again. And then them versus Vegas is going to be a fun little series. All right, Washington hasn't really seen the Stanley Cup final ever, I think. And with Vegas, I mean, this is their first year. So it'll be a nice little story for the NHL, probably bring in some viewers too, some casual fans. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm going to go with Washington there. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show here. Today we talked Houston, Golden State. Like I said, a big surprise that Houston ended up winning Game 4. A lot of momentum going into Game 5. We talked San Diego Chargers losing tight end Hunter Henry. We talked Cleveland versus Boston, previewed that for tonight. And then for this segment, we talked Minnesota Timberwolves. We talked Doc Rivers a bit. And we talked lottery, and we talked my pick for tonight's Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Final. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be recapping Celtics, Cavs, and also talking about that hockey game tonight. So stay tuned for tomorrow, and I will talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.